Just how significant is an RFC for an ALJ when you're trying to prove you're disabled? For those of you who may have heard those terms and you're like, what are you talking about? An RFC is what we call a residual functional capacity. It is a discussion of what limitations you have, or what are the things you're able to do despite your impairments. And that is a very important question for the court, meaning the ALJ, administrative law judge, because that will make a determination of whether you're able to perform any of your past work or any other work as it exists in the national economy. A lot of times people don't have someone who will fill out what we call an RFC form, meaning there's not a doctor, or a doctor is unwilling or unable to fill out a form that specifically gives an indication of what your limitations are. And the limitations can cover a wide variety of things. It means your ability to sit, stand, walk, push, pull, grip, handle, feel, manipulate things, be exposed to dust, odors. It could be your ability to concentrate, deal with supervisors, employees, or even the public, maintain concentration, persistence, and pace, deal with complex things. It's just a variety of things. Now, the question really is, how important is it? It's important in terms of how relative it is to the other evidence you have in your file. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, think of it like this. If you get a RFC form filled out by a doctor who's only seen you one time, doesn't know anything about your medical condition, and then basically fills out an RFC that basically gives your limitations, if all of the medical evidence is contrary to what that RFC says, the RFC form doesn't really mean very much. The key is, does the bulk of the evidence support what those limitations are laid out in that RFC? That's really the most important inquiry you need to ask yourself. A lot of times, and the reason why this is being posed is because I had one of my persons who watch these videos on a regular basis, said they've gotten kind of conflicting responses. Some representatives have told them that you don't need them. Others have said, yeah, you got to have them. They're very helpful. I tell people that RFC forms are great if they can give an accurate snapshot of what your conditions are, but they're not as helpful if they're not supported by the medical evidence. So let's kind of do an exercise and you'll see what I'm saying. Let's say, for instance, that you were injured in a car accident, so now you have a bad back. Let's say that as a result of you have MRIs that reveal that you have a bulging disc in your back, you have some nerve damage, and as a result of that, you've had to have laminectomies, you've had epidural steroid injections, you've had facet blocks. Let's say that they've had to do lumbar fusion. You're still having problems. Let's say that the doctor has you on physical therapy. Let's say that they have you taking morphine sulfate. You have a TENS unit. You've got all those bells and whistles. You're going to a pain management doctor and an orthopedist. And the orthopedic doctor fills out a report on your behalf. And this orthopedic doctor has been treating you for over a year. And the doctor says you can't even do sedentary work. Now, a form that lays out and says, well, you can't stand for more than an hour at a time during an 8-hour day. You can't walk more than an hour. You can't sit for more than 4 hours during an 8-hour day because you need to lay down because of excruciating pain. That is helpful. Why? Because you can go back and you can go and point to medical evidence that supports that. Now, let's take that same hypothetical. You're in an injury, you hurt your back, but then now they make a determination that you had a minor sprain. They're giving you Tylenol. You haven't been referred for any surgeries. You're not taking any facet blocks. You're not taking any narcotic pain medication. Basically, it's just a lumbar sprain. You've got a strained back. And then all of a sudden you go to a new doctor and this doctor says that you can't, perform even sedentary work. They're going to look at that form and they're going to look at your condition and they're going to say, The two don't necessarily add up. So it's important to remember this. RFC forms are only as good as the evidence that supports them. I don't want you sitting here and thinking in your mind, oh, I gotta have an RFC. Well, that's great, but the RFC needs to be supported by what the medical evidence has to say about your condition.